Hello everyone, welcome back to Feedback Friday. We're gonna jump into looking at models. This one is from Rody. Hi Matt, thanks for the Prime, appreciate it. Marky Mark, hello. Yeah, so we got this one here. He's just looking for general feedback. And my general feedback would say that this is looking quite nice. There are some parts of the non-metallic that I think are quite good. We can look at the back real quick, because he painted the back of the model like a good person would. The naginata, I guess you would call it, is quite well. The blade is quite well done. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. There's some parts that look a little unfinished that could push a little further. But in general, I would say it's pretty strong. Quay, hello, thanks for the tier 1. Hi Eric, I've watched nearly every YouTube vid. Glad I could make it to a stream. Well, thanks. Yeah, so generally speaking, I would say pretty nice overall. If I was to give some points of feedback, it would be that parts of your gold, like here, is quite nice, but we could go a little darker in a few spots. Parts of your gold feel a little lacking in contrast. I also feel like maybe parts of this red armor bits feel a little lacking, and you have a tendency to not really push dark black lining, which would help, especially in parts like around here, where we want to create visual separation between things like belts and stuff. So just a bit of black lining will help. Even in parts like this, like maybe separating. I'm doing it a bit thick to sort of show, but could create some more separation here. Like, you know, separating these straps a little bit more. So little things like that, I think, could help create more definition. The other thing I would say is that your base is a little lacking in definition also. So without going too bright, I would consider adding a bit of edge highlights here and there. Maybe add some texturing, create some more definition in some of these parts, because at the moment the base looks a little unfinished, especially from the back. So just pushing some elements a bit more, even like pushing just overall general lights on the base a bit further, just to create some light here, but you might be planning to do some flock or something, I don't know. The next thing I would say is, yeah, we talked briefly, I mentioned the metal, but the metal needs, the gold specifically also needs some blacks. So we need some really dark browns or blacks to create definition in the metallics. Right, we want these parts should be pretty high contrast. Not trying to render it perfectly, but just to give you an idea of how to make it shinier. Idoba. Right, if we don't have the dark parts, the brighter parts won't look as bright by contrast. So we need some of these darker reflections in order to create more contrast between the lights and the darks. Okay, so use some really dark tones here and there. One that's going to help some of these designs stand out more, but it's going to make the metallics look shinier overall. Okay. And then, yeah, you're missing a couple of spots where, like here, you have like a bright highlight here, but then that highlight doesn't really translate to here. So, and I think you could take and use just a few spots of like basically pure white just to create those like a couple of really hot spot shines. You don't want to overdo it, but just a few like little dots and things can make the gold even shinier. Right, it's just a few here and there. And then yeah, same thing on the back with like this looks unfinished, and then yeah, you need some more definition in like these parts. They're a little flat, but overall pretty nice. Alex, hi. I'm rocking that Leon S. Kennedy hair. Thanks, dude. I wish I was as cool as Leon. And yeah, it was nice talking to you at MPO. The name of the book series is The First Law. The first book in the book series is The Blade Itself. Baldwin, thanks for the tier 1. I enjoyed my cornetto in Wells. Dude, I dream of the day that I get to German suplex a zombie. All right, that's on my bucket list. Okay. So we got Rody here. Dustin says, thank you for the face painting workshop in Maastricht. Helped me a lot, and I'm now trying to more and more to put what I learned into practice. I'm especially struggling with highlight placement on darker colors. The silver parts are currently painted in true metallic metal, but I'd like to try painting them as NMM. Better pictures below. Okay, here we go. So, pretty good in parts. And I would say that I know this figure is super tiny. I would say the face is quite good. Life-size Napoleon. Oh, it's pretty funny. What I would say, it's lacking a little bit on the face, and this is a very, very small thing, is you're missing a little bit of that shadow under the nose here, like wrapping a little bit, but it's very minor considering the size. You could maybe enhance a couple of the other shadows just a little bit more, depending on how defined you want to make the face. I like that you didn't dark line under the eye, but we could make the line over the eye just a tiny bit darker. I would say overall quite good. How do I feel about Jiri taking pity on Oberg and then getting knocked out cold? He's living that Bushido life and he got caught, dude. Oh, the auto mod. I'll allow it. It didn't. Okay. Now, for highlight placement on other materials, I would say the boots are quite good, but there's a problem with the boots and the hat. One is that the boots, you've probably overdone. Let me use a color that's a little brighter so you can see. So we've got these cylinders here, right? And the lights run this way, but it's very important when doing highlights that the highlight placement of, imagine his hat is a cylinder because it follows his head. The highlight needs to run in the center of this cylinder, okay? So that means that the highlight would be more here, okay? So yours is too far off to the side, assuming that his hat is like shiny like his boots are. And also the boots face slightly downwards where the hat faces more upwards. So we actually want to tone down the highlights slightly on the boots. They're a little too much. They would catch more on those upper folds in the top of the feet than on sort of these sections here. And then this highlight placement is wrong. This one's kind of right. And then it would be more in the center of the center part. So let's grab some of that like turquoisey blue. And don't overdo this. I know it's supposed to be like a sort of shiny black, but we don't need to like go all the way to white. It's easy to sort of overdo it on the black. We can go maybe like 75% of the way and it'll look quite white. Like this looks basically white even though it's not. So something maybe slightly more like that. And that'll correct why your the highlight feels weird on the hat, because it wasn't in the same position as the what's it called? It wasn't in the same position as the boots. So it's about being consistent with the placement, okay? The other thing about these blacks is like, yeah, you could make this whole thing a bit brighter just because it's facing upwards and it would be reflecting some of the sky. So you could do like more of the hat, like a slightly lighter gray like this or whatever. But hi, Corum. Yes, we're back. Okay. Let's see. So, be just consistent. Okay? That's the big thing. Consistent in your highlight placements is what will make them work. It's always about the consistency over anything else. Brandon. I entered this Custodes on a small competition near me and I did fairly well. It was my first time really doing NMM, and I definitely think I dove straight into the deep end with this guy. Could I get any pointers on how to make the gold armor look more believable? Struggling to figure out what I can do better. All feedback is appreciated. Sorry if the pictures are bad. Oh. Okay. Well. So. The first thing I would say is I'm sorry, but the gold does not look like non-metallic metal. It looks like yellow. There is just too much light yellow and not enough midtones and darker tones. Whenever you're doing metallics, you need to have midtones and darker tones in order to make it look metallic. I would watch some tutorials, maybe even try some recipes for gold, and then you can start to learn how to apply, like how to change the colors once you've when it comes to non-metallic metal, the light placement is the most important part, not necessarily the colors, right? So like if you're struggling with the color of non-metallic gold, use a recipe if that helps, but the actual color is not as important as getting the light placement and the contrast correct. I could sit here and paint over it and show you what to do, but it would take a lot of time. Videos I could recommend, I don't know if, do I have a lot of NMM video? I have a lot of non-metallic metal videos. You could look up mine. Ben Comets has a classic one where he paints a, what is that thing called? Stormcast Eternal? Magnus might have one on the Get Good channel where he paints some non-metallic metal. But the big thing for me is, getting the light, the amount of light and shadow correct. Right now there's just way too much light yellow. You need way more darker tones to make it look believable. Okay? Other than that, I mean, like, you can paint the lines and stuff, so that's good, but yeah, it doesn't read as NMM. Invest in some Tamiya. Invest in some of this stuff. This will help you get rid of things like this. Okay.
I'm sure I paint non-metallic gold in some video and talk about it quite a bit, but yeah, the percentages are important. Okay. I wish I could give you further advice. The other thing I would say is there's like parts where you need to be cleaner, you need dark lining, separation of elements. Like these are, in fact, probably the most non-metallic-y looking part is sort of the leg here, because it's got like a higher amount of contrast on it. But okay, yeah. So watch some tutorials, practice on something maybe a little easier. These guys are not the best. Custodes are not the best for practicing non-metallic metal because they have so much filigree and other stuff on them. Like a regular Space Marine doing like a Brazen Claw or something, not Brazen Claw. What are the guys that are, there's like a chapter that's metallic-y. Oh yeah, Akiro is, yeah, the Achilles is a lot of gold. But that's like super tacky gold, but yeah. It's like really like over the top gold. A regular Space Marine, yeah, you do like a Minotaurs or something like that. Celestial Lines, sure, they're goldish. What's another one? Yeah, and like Stormcast Eternals that aren't completely something with more basic shapes, because learning to render the basic shapes for non-metallic metal will get you a lot further than trying to, yeah, do all this little tiny detail stuff. Cool. All right. He submitted another thing later. Maybe I'll be able to do a little painting on. Geez, you guys have posted a lot. Frog Jim Job, thanks for the wonderful feedback. Fridays, struggling to paint painterly? Struggling to paint painterly. Think I'm not being brave enough. General feedback would be great. You were struggling to paint painterly and then said, think I'm not being brave enough. That is the key to painting painterly. Painting painterly is all about confidence in the brushstroke. As far as, I mean, I think it's pretty good. Well, confident brushstroke, confident in like color placement, all that sort of stuff. If you mean painterly as in terms of like expressionistic, that is a little different, but I mean, I think this is pretty good. I think one of the things I may be seeing is like, if the light is coming here, there's probably some parts where like, we'd probably want to define some of this stuff a little bit more. But that's like little things. This all looks really nice. The face is a bit blown out, and I don't know if it's the photo. Right, there's something else you can kind of think about when thinking of painterly. Let's think about these sorts of shapes here. and what happens when the light sort of goes and enters this. So here's where you get to have fun and do stuff like this. And you go, hey, you know what? The sun or whatever is orange. And I'm going to take this sort of color here and we're going to make it more orange, but that means we need to go through grays. So doing things like this, and then we can think about like, oh, well, you know what? Maybe there's some light that starts to filter through these because it's white fabric. So we get some other colors, and then we can be a little more bold with the colors and do things like this and play around with these like more orangey tones. Right, so it's like, and then it still reads as orange, or it still reads as white, but you get to be a little more bold with sort of color decisions. Even on this feels like a little timid, like you wanted to use like some really strong color here, but you were afraid to just like place a line, you know, like use the color, right? Did we want parts around his eyes colder? Okay. Maybe there's some light bouncing off of this color, so we take and pull some of that into his face. Diego, thanks for the prime. So, yeah, a lot of when you are kind of doing these sorts of things comes down to just like, yeah, it comes down to the confidence of just like placing these lines, you know, like just knowing where you want to place brush marks and stuff. Like use some color here. Like when you're talking about expressionistic and you're talking about perceptual color versus local color, true color, right? We do things like, oh, well, I know that the ears are a little more red, so I choose to just place some red, right? Or even, oh, maybe the light is passing through his ear. Just little spots of color, of like pure color. And then as the colors build together and then we place different colors around, they start to affect each other. And right, we know that parts of the skin are maybe more gray, so it's about yeah, don't be so conscious, like try not to be, you want to be confident but not so perfect in like trying to make it like blended and executed. Right, like if you want to include some warm up here, right, from the sun, then include some warmth, you know, like place some yellow. Don't be afraid to just like put color around. Okay? But yeah, that's the brave thing you were talking about. That is the opposite of what you're trying when you're painting in a painterly style, the confidence and bravery of just putting color around is what makes that style work, you know? So just do it. You just have to do it. Just do it. Bokanor. Hello, thanks for the Prime. Appreciate it. Please stop Discord. Please, I wish that was a setting. I wish. To make it not do that. It's so annoying. Alright. Kolmgarov. Hi, Eric. I was working on this Skaven. For Warhammer Open Dallas Open Painting Competition. Well, sorry, a little late for that. I still very much a work in progress, and I have about a week left to refine them before the event. Sorry. I was gone. Looking for feedback on the areas that have been more detailed so far. Armor, banner, blade, set, and tunic face, and or some idea on lower parts of him that are going to have an OSL effect. So far, I have just sketched out what I think the OSL lighting would be roughly. Okay. Yes, you should sketch out the OSL. Ooh. Yeah, okay. All right, let's look at this. So, number one thing, the OSL is not bad. It's okay. It's maybe a little much considering the crystals don't really look like they're glowing. They just look like crystals. The other thing I'm going to say is the armor's not bad. The face isn't bad. Some of the details and stuff are alright. You paint, your edges are thick. Actually, the banner is quite good and pretty soft, and like it's not over edge highlighted. Where you over edge highlight is metallic, and it is thick, and it is white. Like way too much so. Okay? So, you do not need to paint the entire edge in the same gradient. Alright? Some edges will just be brighter than others. And some parts of the edge will be brighter than others. You can include gradients within your edge, within the edges. Okay? So, don't feel like you have to paint them all pure white. It's just too much. The second thing is I don't really understand what this is and what this is. Why there is this yellow reflection up here and a bluish reflection here. And this bluish reflection turns more yellow when it gets to the center, which would make me assume that this is the sun. So is the steel blue because he's outside and it's the sun? And if that's the case, why is the top of this blade like orange, like it's a sunset or something? But then in a sunset, the sun would not be up here. The sun would be on the side, coming in from the side. So it would reflect on the side of the blade. and then sunset obviously would affect the rest of the model, right? But then this light doesn't match what's going on over here. So yeah, you're just trying to do like too much. So you need to pick like what kind of effect you're going for. If you're going to do a blue steel, just do a blue steel. Okay, things we choose to do have logic to them, right? Hopefully. They should, right? Ideally, they should have some logical reason for why the metal is blue. And typically the logical reason is because it's the sky, right? Remember, why is it getting more yellowish in parts? Well, because it's reflecting the sun and the sun is slightly more yellow. Okay? So we try and think about these things, like the whole top of this blade would be lighter because it's facing upwards. Right? Probably the side of this would not be that intensely bright. This is the best part, but even this would probably have some secondary reflections and things. Okay. This here should match the same angular position as over here. You can only have one. If this is the sun reflecting, what is this? You can only, on this curve, you would only have the sun reflecting in one place. On this curve, you would have the sun reflecting on this place, and they would have the same tangent. So if the sun is here, and the sun should be somewhere over here where the tangents match. Does that make sense? And yeah, stop blowing out the edge highlights everywhere. You don't need that much. And then maybe here, like this curve starts to curve back outwards, so maybe you get another reflection there, and you get some reflections more on the top of those notches. All right, so yeah, all of this stuff should be somewhat, have some sort of reason behind it, okay? Now, the other thing would be like, on this blade, would green reflect on the top? So if this thing is reflecting the sky, which again, it has this orange that I don't understand, right? So this top blade would have this bluish tone, right? But then this one would too, right? Because this is below. And it would reflect in the bottom, not in the top of the blade. So it would reflect underneath. And you want to avoid using too much white in this. This is when you want to use, like when you do an OSL, you really want to use like color, right? So this is when you want to use like intense color. It's really easy to go like way too white. because you're trying to make it brighter. So if you use white to add like some opacity or whatever to it, then come back and add, try and push the color back in. Right. Yeah. And then you're just sort of all over. Now, the next thing I would say is you're sort of all over the place with your colors. I don't want to talk about this figure too much longer, but you are sort of all over the place with color composition. You need to simplify a little bit. There's like yellow, pink, red, blue, like blue from the steel, green, purple. It's like, bring it down a little bit. All right. Like simplify a little. This is too much. It's all over the place. Binary Throttle, thanks for the 5 gifted subs. Appreciate it. All right, so yeah. Try and rely more on value contrast instead of color contrast, or desaturate things, right? Like use some desaturated tones instead of, you know, it just becomes too much. All right, what's next? Here we go, scrolling up again. S-Fizz. Hi, Eric. Of course, any general feedback, but mainly had some issues around trying to maintain a level of focus on the face because while I wasn't doing cast shadows, it felt weird to make her face brighter than it is since it would be mostly occluded. So, I guess what would you recommend to improve the composition? There are a lot of ways to draw focus. Value is the one. Like, value is the easiest one. Color is also another easy one. Like, having more saturated colors around the areas of focus often draws attention. This is generally pretty good. I think the metals are pretty nice. So, like, for example, this hat, if we want to draw more attention, instead of this sort of brownish color, what if we got some nice, like, super poppy orange in here? I'm talking, like, safety orange, you know? Or whatever. And it may, you know, like you're using these nice reds here, but you don't have any of those reds like on this part, so. So using more saturated colors that way, the face needs more definition. So that's another part. We want to have some more definition on parts of the face. Why are you guys so scared to use like black paint. I don't get it. Like, you're using black basically here, but then you don't use any of it on the skin. Like, you use it on the white, but then don't use it on the skin. Doesn't, and it's not clocking. I don't understand. Okay, the next thing I would say is if we tone down some parts, like, okay, you can't push the values more, which you could, by the way. This is not that bright. Like, you could push the values on the face a little more. You could push the values on the skin in general a little more. Like, the skin just doesn't really have highlights at the moment. And then you can do stuff like this, where you push light like on parts that are near the face, like the shoulder or parts of the hair, right? Where you've already sort of done this, but we could do it even more. So we make like the shoulder of the arm brighter. And then we do stuff like this, like something like this, where we got this darker blue down here. And we're going to take and just darken some of these areas, like down here, like the hair doesn't need to be this bright back here. Maybe parts of the arm, like this, don't need to be quite that bright. Like this can go way darker back here because we don't need to see it. Even parts of the pants, like just reducing the light a little bit on these lower sections. All right, we use value. In order to, let me erase a little bit of that. That was too much. So we use value. Now this might not look like I did a whole lot, right? But when I toggle this on and off, you can see that it lowers some of these areas and helps draw more. The overall picture of the figure doesn't seem that different, but it pulls attention back upwards. And then these sort of highlights here help to pop out some of the focal areas. So in combination, right? And then with the extra definition in the face. Oops, I meant to duplicate it. Right? We can really change the focus of the figure, right? It's like these few little differences go from this figure looking kind of flat, and like you kind of look at her arm a lot more, right? And then this really like pulls attention upwards towards her face. Cool. All right. I'm going to take a quick break. We've been going for an hour. So, quick break. I'll be right back and we will keep going. I'm going to do this for a little while. So, stick around. I'll be right back. Hello. I'm back. I have a new favorite Dungeon Crawler Carl character, Prepotente. Prepotente is pretty good, yeah. I like him too. I'm on the latest book. I've listened to it a bit while on my travel, but I have not gotten through it all yet. So I've got plenty of stuff to work on, models to build now that I'm back, so I'll be getting through some of that. Looks like he re-uploaded the photos here. Says he got a gold, so that's pretty cool. But didn't tell me that he updated the photos in the original post, so I didn't know. Hi Eric, I'm working on this competition piece. I'm currently trying to figure out the axe, thinking about adding some texture, okay, but unsure how to approach it. And the rim light, which I sketched on the back, and will further refine it. I would love to get your thoughts on how to approach those. I would also love hearing anything further about improving the piece, especially related to textures and lighting. Thank you. And he's added updated photos down here somewhere. These, I assume. So the front is looking pretty good. These photos are kind of weird, though. I need to see, like, the dwarf. Why are they all from the top? I can't see the dwarf. They're all from above. Give me a straight-on shot. But I'm going to take this photo. Alright, so the arm and stuff looks pretty good. I'm going to look at this and say, why? My first question, my number one question is why? Not... looking for a logical explanation. What is making this bright blue light? What is it? Why is there a neon light? Like a giant blue LED behind him. The front has the sensation of a sunset, but the back, or this side, the rim light here, this secondary light, is like, yeah, some sort of ultra blue thing. So this doesn't make sense to me logically. I don't understand it. I'm also going to look at it in black and white and see how it is working in hue or in values, and see that the values of the blue are a little high. But I also think that we could just take something like this. Let's make another color layer. We don't need it to be that strong, okay? So perhaps something a little more subdued.
would work better. Also, normally if there is ambient light in your scene that is making things like this red, it's probably not enough to completely kill the shadow tone over here. Like it wouldn't just change to dark blue, right? The shadows of this side would still be reddish. We would just be adding another bluish light on top. Okay, so when you add a secondary light, it doesn't shift the whole color of the model. And especially doesn't shift the shadows, because it's not affecting the shadows, it's only affecting the lights. So we need to make sure we maintain some of the color of the shadows there. And then I wouldn't use like an ultra bright blue. I would use some sort of color tone like this, and I would consider more of like, if it's supposed to be, I don't know, some sort of skylight or something, but assuming that it's, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be like a sunset, so you really wouldn't have like a lot of sky blue showing up because the back wouldn't be this intense, but I would go with something more grayish toned. I think people overdo rim lights in general. Now, how to make the axe more interesting. Okay, so it's a sunset, but let's assume that there's Secret Agent Man. Thanks for the tier 1. Let's assume that it's a sunset, because I think that's the effect that we're going for. Create variation. So maybe there's clouds, right? And those clouds create some sort of variation in hue and the shape of this. The sky is also not that blue, but it's fine. So we can create some noise in the axe in order to create the effect that there is some sort of, this is way too yellow. Sunset has more these like peachy orange tones than pure yellow, but and this is like too white of a edge highlight. And where's the like edge highlight here? Affecting his fingers, and then the rim light would also affect his fingers. And yeah, so we want to basically just like try and introduce some of this secondary reflections within the metal, that maybe there's clouds or whatever that are breaking up this shape and making it more regular, right? So it's not just a perfect linear gradient, it's got some sort of secondary tones and reflections that are whatever, clouds or whatnot. Makes it more interesting. Then if you want to make it more, then if you want to do even more, you can come in and maybe there's little nicks and scratches in the axe, and you create little, do stuff like this, right? There's already like nicks in the axe anyways, the sculpted ones. Well, guess what? You can freehand more. You can add your own. So
you can do stuff like that in order to create more more of those sorts of things. Now, this is very yellow. Okay, so one thing I like to think about is that if you are dealing with the metal is showing what the environment is showing, right? The metal reflects the environment. So if the metal is reflecting, if the axe is reflecting yellow, that means that the light is very warm and orange. So why aren't the brightest highlights of his skin very yellow and orangey? So if you have to, make the, try and really think about, don't just paint the axe, right? We're not painting the axe. Okay. Don't paint the spoon. Okay. Paint the light. And then the light affects everything. There is no spoon. Yeah. The magenta color's fine in the beards, whatever. The shadows on the fingers are probably also incorrect because the light is coming very straight on. Like in a sunset. This is the number, by the way, this is the number one thing people get wrong with sunsets is they put the light too high, right? When people paint a sunset, they have the light like coming in from like a really high angle. But if you, hopefully you know where the position of the sun is in a sunset, it's on the horizon. So that means that the light comes in like straight from the front or the side or whatever. So it's not the light is not elevated. It's the number one thing people goof when they paint sunsets. Anyways, yeah, so there's my feedback for you. Mark, I am grateful for your thoughts on this piece. I was trying to push myself to paint more effectively away from the main light source and be bolder with the color variation. This is pretty cool. I like the layout. It's a nice, pretty nice spotlight effect. I think it works pretty well. The painting on the actual figures looks quite good. I wish they were higher res so I could see them better. I hope this isn't for Golden Demon. I would hate to be giving feedback on a Golden Demon figure or a Golden Demon piece for SN.
I actually don't even recognize these figures. I have no idea where these are from.
All right. So the spotlight effect is cool.
I generally quite like it. However, there is the issue of this guy is very well framed, really nicely lit. These two guys, however, get a little lost. So this is when you want to actually rim light things a little bit. So this is a case of where you should be rim lighting, all right? I think people overuse rim lights for like illustrative effects or whatever. Here, we're going to use rim lights because the light is behind these guys and we're looking at them from the main view and we want to help silhouette them a little more. So we are going to exaggerate some of the light on elements in order to help frame some of these piece figures. Okay, so like that. You've done it a little bit, but we're gonna push it a little more in order to really help like make these other two stand out a little bit, because they get a little lost in the scene, right? So like adding some light to the back of the head here, maybe pushing a little light on these horns. You know, we use this warm light on their sort of silhouette in order to make them stand out on this background. Even like maybe there's some light reflecting on the edge of this sword and catching here and there, because they're, especially on metals, it's a reflection of the light source, not actually the light shining directly on the metal. Alright, so we can use this in order, and you should see, hopefully, that like the difference between this and this, like we help these guys pop out into the scene, right? Make them more part of the scene. Then I would probably try and maybe add just a touch more, a couple spots on this guy. But yeah, that's the big thing for me, is just getting them to be more part of this whole scene, right? Makes sense, Mark? So just push that a little more and get them so that they're not lost. Otherwise, very cool. Sukidong. Right now I've added right now I've added lighting and highlights to different areas based on the advice you gave me last week, and it's looking pretty good so far. At the moment I'm working on the sharp spiky textures on its body. I wanted to ask, for textures like these, if I add yellow highlights to represent the light, would that overpower everything, or should those highlights only be placed in certain areas? The yellow highlight, like you're already doing yellow highlights on the scales. That works. So yeah, that's fine. Need to simplify that still. I know we talked about this. I don't remember everything I said, but yeah, like this scale, this stuff is working. You can add like little dots here and there to show the lights where they're hitting, but the number one thing that like this figure is missing, I feel like I talked about this. I'm pretty sure I talked about this in one. Can I ask one more question? I'd like to ask what color the background should be to help make the character stand out more. What background? Like the base? I don't know, that's up to you. Like, are you asking about the base or like taking photographs? My worst enemy is paragraphs. Let the figure do the talking. Unless you have a very specific question. Or like, hey, I'm trying to achieve this X specific effect. Here's the issue with your figure. Okay? And I feel like I talked about this, but we need to get the original, the overall shape of these elements in. Okay, where is the light? The tops of these, some of these volumes, we need to create the general volume in order to see the shape of the figure. Okay, there's a lot of detail here, and if you lose the overall shape, like you don't see what is going on. Like, so it's very easy to like try and use like dark shadows in these wrinkles on top, but the light would still hit in these wrinkles. So yeah, you need to establish the light first. This is why I always try and stress, like, establish the light, then work on details. If you jump straight into details, you're going to create a noisy paint job. Like, where are the lights hitting on these spikes? Paint the light first, simplify the volume, and then go away thing, and then you can start adding detail. All right, but if you don't simplify the volume, then it's very difficult to read the overall shapes. It's difficult to read the overall shapes of the figures, or the overall shape of the figure. Okay. Simple, keep it simple, then add detail. Hello, Eric. I find cast shadows very fun to paint. Can you help me improve them, please? Okay.
She needs eyebrows. She's freaking me out. She's got no eyebrows. I mean, like, these aren't bad. These are pretty good. Like, value-wise, you're painting generally the correct values here. Maybe the whites of her eyes are slightly too light. Or a bit too light. Then I'm not really getting the sense of the shape of her hat. Like, there should probably, like, I'm assuming the light is coming sort of from this angle. So I don't know, should there be some sort of cast shadow here? Should there be some sort of shadow under her arm? Like, should this be in shadow? Should this be in shadow? I guess the only thing, here is like I'm slightly confused on the exact lighting direction because this arm doesn't really have a shadow side. Like, I saw the sort of cast shadow of the bracelet. But like this has a very tiny shadow on it, so that sort of makes sense. Chest has a bit of a shadow on it. Right? So, and the body, the torso sort of has a shadow as we round this way, but then the arm that's at a steeper angle didn't really have a shadow on it. So I would guess that's, you kind of missed that shadow there. The hair is a little of a mess. And then I would consider like changing the hat. It's like too peachy. I don't know. Give it some color. Like everything is very just like white and the same. Like everything is like super light. So you probably want to darken this somehow. Make the hat darker or something. But the general shape, right? So the number one most important thing when it comes to cast shadows is that when materials are different tone, different values, like if her hair and her skin, like her bikini top is lighter, slightly lighter than her skin is, though her skin is very, very pale. The sort of issue right now is that everything is sort of the same value. Like everything is just very light. You want to make sure that the values change, right? Between different tones. So right now, this value on her face is like basically the same as the hat. Right? It's the same sort of shadow value. But the hat is kind of the same as her skin, right? So like everything is just the same at the moment, which means that you got the difference, the relative value change correct, but it also makes for sort of a boring figure because everything's the same. So things need to shift equally. So I would darken some parts, lighten some parts. I would maybe consider making her bikini top darker also, just to like, add some difference to the figure. Like give some things, some shapes to like break it up. But yeah. Chasm Art. Hello. Thanks for the Prime. But like general shape and value wise, like I think you mostly got it correct. Here on the face, this is a little wrong because you should have the shadow of her. Oops. You should have like the shadow of her nose and her cheek, like as it rounds away from the light. Like there should be a shadow here, and then there would be a bounce light in it. But there should be like some shadows here that this, as this goes across, it joins into the form shadow. So they just become one shadow shape. And then you could introduce, bounce lights and stuff as it, the light hits her chest and then bounces back up onto the face. Assuming that the light is coming down, like her nose might cast a shadow also. So she might not actually have like any light on this part of her face at all. And maybe the cast shadow is only affecting like this part, but generally speaking, I recommend taking some sort of reference photo for this. Yeah. Like, would her rib cage like have a small shadow here or something? It depends on how shredded she is. She looks pretty lean. Hi, Gary. But then, yeah, I would change up the hat and the bikini top in a way that makes for more visual interest to separate elements more. Hi, Eric. Thanks for judging this at MPO. Sadly, circumstances did not allow me to stay for feedback on the day, so I'd hope you could give me some feedback here on a Friday of your choosing. Man, painting the headdress feathers on this model was, not particularly fun. Cool. All right, let's look at it. Wait, what? I thought I saved it. What happened? Did I not save the image? Save. What? What is going on? Why did it save it down there? Recently saved. All right. There we go. Okay. I mean, I like the just the face on this figure better, but that's just me. I much prefer the without the mask than with the mask, but all right. So skin and dark skin. Dark skin has oil in it and it shines a little, and people who have darker skin, that shine is even more obvious. So if we look at your figure here, the skin has no highlights, and in fact you can see highlights from the photography. This is also highlights from the photography. Right? So, what does that mean? It means you are not pushing the highlights of your skin nearly enough. All right? And it seems like we have a sort of whitish light and a cold and a warm sort of OSL. Okay? So what we want to do is we need to add some legit highlights to the skin. Okay? Just like metallic, has highlights. And if you want to exaggerate them, you make them cold, which is going to make them like purpley. I'll show you by using a blue light instead, because you're kind of going with like a warm cold thing here. So let's go with like an actual like bluish tone, something like this, right? So if we use a bluish light on this skin, it starts to read bluish, but guess what? It is in fact not. Okay, so even like in the eyes here, right, we find places that we can introduce some of these highlights. Okay, we need highlights on the skin. Now, when you color check this, notice that it is not blue. It is like a purpley gray. Okay? So, that's a big one. All right? Skin highlights. The next thing, the metallic. You've got a very bright shine right here. Okay? And on the teeth, right? The teeth. See where it is? It's like on the, it's on like the front center of these shapes. Yes, you guys can see that? That this is like hitting front center, slightly top right, slightly top right. Yeah? Okay. Slightly, yeah, that's all slightly top right. Where's the one here? Not that color. It's not here. It's slightly top right. So the center of it would actually be like right here. Okay. It would be like behind the other piece, the gem, not out to the side over here. This would not be there. I mean, you could have like a secondary reflection or something, but the actual like highlight of this metal would be here, and that means that this gem, the highlight would be like somewhere here. So, always trying to be consistent. Now, this thing is annoying. It's just weird and annoying, and it should be relatively flat. If you see the one I did, you will see that it is like much more. I added stuff to it to make it more interesting. Like I did some freehand and whatever. I think the same could be done with yours. You can do some relatively simple like freehand work by just like creating a border to some of these or something. Like try and make this more interesting. I'm just gonna do one. Like you did this cool pattern down here. We could maybe revisit this sort of theme. I don't know. You get the idea, right? So we maybe revisit this sort of theme, and then we play around with the edge here to create some false depth to this effect.
It's pretty fun, actually. Doing these sort of synthetic metal like engravings. But yeah, it could add a lot more interest to these very bland parts. Where's the fire in the eyes? Where's the fire and reflection in this thing up here? It should be like a very bright orange. Where's the fire reflection in this? And here. Basically just consistency. Just trying to be consistent. This is pretty good. But shouldn't the like inside of the nose also reflect this sort of flame thing you got going on? Probably much more of the earrings would be lit up. Like, maybe should there be like a flame reflection there? Probably more of this earring would be lit by the flame. You know, these like very small marks. Only a little bit of her skin, a bit more on her skin. Much more on this, on the leather here. Maybe a little more on her stomach. On this arm, like it doesn't affect this arm at all. Anyways, that's kind of my point. So, yeah. There's a little stuff where you just like missed things, and then other things where you, yeah. Like, we could add some light getting in here. So you wanna make sure you get in some of those reflections that you miss. Like, make sure you hit all of them. You know, I oftentimes will like take the figure and go like this and like flip it over and go like, okay, well, because we often think about like light coming from the top. So when you're painting an OSL like this, like flip the model over. You know? Flip it over. Okay, cool. Look, I just found some that I've missed. Because I wasn't thinking about it. That, like, when I flip the model over, like, shouldn't there be, like, a little bit of orange, like, on the bottom of these? You know? Whoops, forgot them. Because, you know, we stop sort of thinking of it that way when we're always looking at it from like this way. Thanks, Brian. So anyways, yeah. Look at your model upside down. Especially when you do this sort of lighting from below effect. See, and you'll oftentimes like see some areas that you sort of missed because you weren't thinking about the light coming from above, you know?
or because we're always thinking about the light coming from above, we miss some parts. Cool pizza. Let me here, let me insert that. Add, insert a photo. Just put it back in just so we can see sort of the difference. So. All right. Gonna take another quick break, grab a drink, and I will be right back. Don't go anywhere. It's Feedback Saturday. Yay. Robden. Hi, Eric. I was hoping to get some feedback on my MPO entry. I was very chuffed. Loved it. To get a commended award for this entry, so I was wondering I'll work on to get bronze next year. Let's see the back. The back is mostly painted. Now the back is painted. All right. You guys will never guess what I'm gonna say. Dude, I love the word chuffed. It's so funny to me. No, this should be commended in standard. Sam, how did you know? That's so crazy that you knew that I was going to say that it needed more definition. That's nuts. That you knew that I would say that. That you guys need to come in and you need to paint. Why is it not showing up? What's going on? Oh, because it's on eraser. That you guys need to add more definition to your models. Sharpness needs to be cleaned up. Can't see what's going on here, but there is all these little strip. Well, I forget what this is called. There's a specific Japanese word for this style of tied leather. You're doing it a bit. You're doing some, but all of these should be well defined so you can see the tie. Because, like, you spend a bunch of time doing this cool freehand and it looks great, and then you have stuff like this. Like, what's this? Come on. If you're gonna make it dark, just make it dark. Yeah, it's Ray. It's
gray skin. That is correct. Okay, so definition and dark lining, like create separation in elements. It will add so much to your model. It makes your figure so much more readable. Like create the definition. Okay. Like where's the shadow in her mouth? Doesn't necessarily have to be that dark, but I'm doing this for illustration purposes, like shadow in the nostrils, shadow over the eye. Create the she has black hair. There should be a nice strong definition between her hair and her skin. Just general cleanup would go a very long way to making this figure much better. Like you do some cool stuff, like you're trying to do cool effects and stuff, and the effects work pretty well, but then like you don't bother to paint some dark lines around elements to separate them. Pop Secret. Thanks for the 14 months. Appreciate you. Okay. Really, I cannot stress enough. I swear, I was gonna keep just hammering it home. That just going in and doing this sort of stuff will add so much to your figure and make it so much more readable. What brush would create such tiny line work? Just one that is nice and pointy. Doesn't have to be. I can do it with a size 3, so you guys can use whatever brushes. Got a nice pointy edge. Like there is really cool stuff here. Like these cast shadows and stuff of the handles of the sword. You know? But then we don't have the things that like help define and make the figure more readable. Okay? So that's the biggest thing. Like across the board on your figure is just like make it more defined. All right? Then yes, there is like this is not like there is technical work that could be more blended. There is areas of paint like this like pink is getting on the yellow parts. Like there is cleanup stuff, you know, and other little issues. So just spending some extra time trying to clean up, like here, like this, you know, she's got this like cast shadow of her hair, but that doesn't cast a shadow. Don't really understand the shadow on her face here. So, important stuff. Yeah. That's the main things that I see that would really just like more definition and then try and be a bit more refined in some areas. Because things like light placement, the color scheme is very good. Like you've got a nice orange blue color palette going on. Her skin's like a little pink to me. I don't know, but it's fine. But generally speaking, yeah, that's the two main things that will push your figures a lot further. Okay. I don't know, it depends on what they're going for. They're going for this sort of purpley effect. This is another little thing, like this shadow here doesn't cross into this yellow, so it's a little odd. Like this is probably slightly too bright and should be something a bit darker. So that cast shadow reads correct. But that's like I'm being pretty nitpicky with that. It's not like that, oh, if you had fixed that would have gotten you a bronze. Like, no. The bronze is like, yeah, it just needs to be more defined and more refined. All right. Another MPO entry. Okay. Gerb. Hi, Eric. I took this crocodile to MPO. I was lucky enough to receive a commended in standard painting for another entry, which I'm buzzing about. What can I help to do to push this guy for future comps? Don't do this. That's one. All right, I'm going to go on a little rant here. Like, because we talked about it on the dwarf also. Same issue here. Why does he turn into a ghost on the back? Like, all the color, all of the ambient light just goes away on the back, so all the shadows just disappear. Like, you can't tell what color anything is on the back of the figure anymore because everything just becomes blue. Like, yes, you can have a cool blue light, but just because there's a cool bluish light, like a cold light, does not make everything just turn like white and blue, right? I can add, watch this. Hi, I now have a warm orange secondary light coming from this side. Yeah? But the whole side of me doesn't just turn orange. Like, colors still have colors, right? This red
is still red on the shadow side. Here, I'll turn this light off for a second. Right? Yeah, now everything is very amber colored. Right? But like the things in the background, they still have color to them. You can still tell the bookshelf is brown, and you can tell like that there's blue up here and red over here, right? Like, so, yeah, like it needs to affect the colors in a way that it tints the colors, but it doesn't just completely overtake the colors to the point where there's no like color information anymore. Okay? Like the side of my shirt here, where this secondary light is hitting, this is a cool neutral gray, and this is a warm gray. Still a gray. Alright? So the same when looking at this, like you need to have the color information there still. Okay? Roar! End of rant. Now, as far as this one's concerned, as far as the main view is concerned, there's some nice stuff going on. But again, could be more defined. There's a bit of lack of focus. You could push elements more. So there's a lot of stuff in this photo, by the way, that is looking like it is highlighted, but it is not, because it is like this looks like a highlight. These look highlighted. This whole highlight here is not actually painted. This is all just the camera. Like that's just the paint reflecting. So you can push highlights more. A lot of this stuff also that looks highlighted is not. All of these highlights here. Like paint these highlights, right? These highlights you see in the photography. Paint them. Not enough. I like that the red is dark, you know? Like, that's good. But there is not enough other parts that are nice and bright in order to give some good separation here. Just becomes a little flat. Metallic could be a lot shinier. More contrast on, always more contrast on metallics in general. But things could be a lot more defined and separate shapes more. Okay. So push. You gotta, like, the axe is pretty good actually, but you could even push that a little bit. You could push some highlights here and there on certain parts of this. Base needs work. And then, yeah, the back. The back is a whole nother thing. I don't know where this came from. Whose fault is this? No, it's not Spain. Okay, fallen shots. Been a while since I posted in here. Not really looking for anything in specific for this guy. Just trying to get better. All right. Are the photos blown out? Go away. Oh. I feel like the photos are a bit blown out. Yeah, they are. All right. Shapes. So, little thing here. Okay. We'll cheeks are not red here. Okay. We're not shading the cheekbones with red. All right. We changed the coloration of the cheeks with red, not using red to shade. Okay. So let's fix this. The side of his head. All right, so it should be something like this. Okay. All right. We want to use. So there's some nice shadows here. We want to push shadows more. I feel like we're not using enough shadows on this figure. Everything sort of just seems to be like really in the light. Probably overusing highlights quite a bit. We need more mid-tony colors in the skin. Okay. I'm gonna kind of bring everything down a little bit.
Alright, that's gonna make his see like it's gonna make his face look very flat because it doesn't have any these highlights to like push these smaller volumes. But we need to get like some of these. You've got like decent larger forms to his face, but this face is what makes this academic bust very interesting is all the little like micro volumes. So normally I would say like, oh, you've over don't paint so much detail. Like, oh no, you're painting too much detail. Here it's like it's a little too simplified, and we need to try and get some of those smaller shapes in. All right. Like his face is very grizzled. Okay, so angry man with lots of little micro forms in his forehead and stuff. So using some midtones to create some of these micro volumes to shadows, like where is the like lower form to his lower eyelid. Okay. Then after you've done that, then you can come back and create highlights in order to pick these out. You also need to choose what your main view is so that you can base your highlight position off of that main view. All right. By the way, anybody excited about the Wolverine video game? I liked the X-Men Origins Wolverine video game back in the day, and it's kind of reminding me of that. Okay, so. Right. See how blown out the highlights are? It's just too much highlight. We need to get some of those midtones back, and then we can introduce smaller these smaller shapes to create more form in the face. Now, these are pretty good. I like this. Free hands are nice. I think you could do a little more here and there. The eyebrows are like way too bright. And then try and use some of these, like the hairs will continue to grow up onto the face a little bit. Okay. Even adding some to his like lip. I mean, for me, like yes, they're much more scattered, but my facial hair grows like all the way up to here. So I have to shave it down to get this line. So you actually get like little scattered hairs quite high up. So if his beard is supposed to be like growing back in, then you'll have much more reduced little scattered hairs as you go up, and you can freehand those in. Just like you did here in this section, but you can do it like maybe it starts to connect to his mustache or whatever.
Maybe it's, by the way, the neck line also, like your beard starts to grow. Mine grows all the way down to here. When I painted this figure, I could take it out and show you guys, but obviously I wouldn't do lines this big, but your neck, if you're going to do the 5 o'clock shadow, theoretically the beard grows much lower than that, so it comes quite far down. Don't be a wuss. Paint that chest hair, dude. Go ahead, have fun, paint some chest hair. And you're probably overdoing the shine of the hair a little bit. I see this with people that do, when people paint black quite a bit, they have a tendency to overdo the specular highlight on black hair a little bit. Did you do the box art for this? No, Mark did the box art. This is before I was a professional. I have it. Where is he? He's right here. I'll grab him. Let me grab him real fast. I'll show you guys my version if you've never seen it before. This was when I entered Crystal Brush for the first time. So I painted this years ago. I painted this model a long time ago. It's like, what, 8 years ago or something? 20... Anyways, there's a lot of little, like, see how much detail is in his forehead? Oh, stop shaking. There's a lot of detail in this figure's forehead, so. He's a fun one. I like this bust a lot. There's some things that I would definitely change now, but I don't hate it. It's not bad. It ain't bad, I guess. It's okay. This is Zeratul. Hi Eric, I would love your feedback on this piece, my first NMM and OSL. Not bad. Is this Zeratul? I don't remember. What's this character's name? The NMM looks pretty good. I would say overall the NMM was quite nice. lining is pretty good. Yeah, like this is well rendered. Light placement makes sense. This is okay. So yeah, here's where it gets tough. So the OSL, on the other hand, is not great. If you want to paint successful OSL, I like to think about Star Wars because everyone knows what a lightsaber looks like. And here he's got a big glowing green blade thing coming out of his arm. So a lightsaber is typically like basically white, right? So we're gonna paint that super bright, like really, really bright, barely any green. There's some green, it's like on the edge, okay? Then we use like an ultra saturated green tone, something like this. Now these really intense greenish colors. And then we use that to sell the fact that this thing is glowing green. So we let the blade be mostly white and then use a very saturated version of that color, which we would do less on the purple because purple is not going to show as much green as the blade is, but we can do it a bit here as like a rule of cool to make it like it's so bright that it's overpowering the purple, kind of like a haze effect, like almost like a bloom, like a halo. It's like so intensely bright green that it kind of blows out the purple. More like a trick of the eyes than anything. And then you probably want to make sure you get, like, even if it's just a little bit, like, yes, it would probably show up on some of these parts back here. And then maybe, like, just a tiny bit, like, on his head or something. Maybe a little bit here and there on his hair. It would fall off a lot faster on the fabric than it would on shinier elements. So things like gold and stuff are going to show it from a lot further away than what's it called? Than the fabric will, because yeah, it's reflective. It's a reflection of the blade and not like a volumetric light of the blade. Okay, so even like maybe just a little bit here and there on his skin. And then, yeah, we want to darken some of these areas a little more. So we need some separation. So first, see, like that doesn't look like it's glowing. Right? That looks like it's glowing. Right, because the cape is like the surrounding cape is like as bright as the blade right now. We need the blade to be really bright. And if you want to make the blade even brighter, you darken down the cape some more so that you make the whole scene like a little darker so that you can make the blade even brighter. Which means doing something like this. Let's take this, we'll duplicate him, and we'll go. Now, I'm not saying to do this on this figure, but yeah, you do something like that, right? So that the blade looks really intensely bright.
Sir Gwent. Hello, Eric. I was hoping to get some general feedback on this piece I just finished. Thank you. Oh, yeah, it's crazy how many there are. We're not getting through them all today. In fact, we're probably going to do like a few more. And then we will jump to them next week. Or we'll have to do it again next week. Yeah, we're not catching up today. It's been a few weeks, so. All right, this is cool. I like the like satiny box. That's really not. That's nice. The bone's a little dark. She's supposed to be wearing a glove on one hand and not on the other. So okay. Okay, the number one thing I see that could improve this figure. I like the red and the black and the purple. There's like good different materials. The face and the hand are boring. The face is boring because it has no color in it. It's just kind of all the same, right? This is like I chose this, and then I chose the next color to add light, and then I chose another color to add light, and then I chose another color, and it's like just this perfect like linear progression. So introduce more tonal variation. Also, this is not what fingernails look like. Fingernails, by the way, just look like skin, except they're slightly shinier. So, color. Okay, I want to add some color. Color variation. All right, we were talking about cheeks. They're slightly more rosy-ish. Okay. The lips are a little more reddish. Right, I didn't use red to add shadows. I used red to like color shift it. And in fact, your fingers are also more reddish. So what is up with her finger here? Why does that look crazy? Where's the knuckles? That is weird. I don't like that. Let's tone that down a little bit so she doesn't look like she has crazy Slenderman fingers. Where'd the screen go? Why'd it do that? Oh, the HDMI is coming unplugged. There it goes. We're back. Okay. That's one thing. Then we need to add some highlights. Okay. Her face. Which also means other parts probably need more highlights and stuff, but you'll see just how much adding some highlights can do to change the shape of the face and add more volume, more micro volumes and stuff to the skin. Like her lips have no highlight, right? They should have like a nice intense highlight. Now I'm going to tone this down a little bit. that's way too much. See how we start to give more shape to her face? And then I would, yeah, come back and do it again, like really in a couple spots, like a few spots should get, nope, this should be another highlight and layer. A few spots should get like really intense light. Okay, so that's the thing. You need to also adding more focus to the face. So everything's just like a bit dark right now. But yeah, you need more color variation and stuff in the skin. Almost the brightest part of the model is just the scroll thing down here. So push, push, push. Push the light more. Not on the red. The red's fine, but other parts need to be pushed more. Skin specifically, the bone, or the reliquary. No, I just want you to swipe up. Pop secret. I promise I won't ask for feedback on the entire Hunter Clade kill team. But I'm submitting the second one, hoping for more general feedback after implementing your specific teachings about separation and visual clarity about when weathering. Is there anything else I should work on or focus on? I mean, it generally looks a lot better to me. There's much more, yeah, I mean, this looks way better. Very nice. Nice separation of elements. Good definition. I mean, is it Golden Demon quality? No. But it's a really nice tabletop and it looks really nice and defined. So, good job. Weathering looks good. Certain parts of the metals are shinier, so that's nice. Certain parts are more weathered. Solid work. I would maybe try and... the base is okay. It's a little boring, but it's okay. Maybe some washes on the cabling could add some more definition to them. Right? But, yeah. Looks good. Oh, here we go. Hello again. Thank you so much for the feedback on this lighting. It really opened my eyes and I had a lot of fun adjusting the OSL. I would love to enter this piece in the local painting competition in the fall and was wondering what things I could focus on to improve this piece. So I don't love giving feedback multiple times to the same model. So let me just look at the improvement. Way better to start, just way better overall. Okay, I just talked about, if you were watching the video before, I talked about OSL with the other guy. You're probably using too much white in some areas. Try and use just green. Okay, so don't
her hair right now is almost brighter than the flame. When I was talking about Zeratul. So right now the green is brighter than the flame. Like this is too white, so it doesn't look really glowy. Like on her sleeve, it should just be green. So avoid using white when you're not painting the actual light source of the OSL, unless it is like a reflection in metallic. Okay. From here, the warm light source looks really good. Probably still a little blown out in some spots, like maybe the boots are a little bright. The bottles look good. And then it's just refinement, right? Like just painting sharper, painting smoother. Like there's like the horns, that's too rough. So paint smoother and avoid using too much white. In like here the pants look nice, right? But then the other parts it's too bright. So don't highlight everything up to the same color. Like you have a tendency that's like, whether it's a dark material or a light material, like that you're using the same value to highlight everything kind of up to the same. Let certain areas be darker than others, or let certain elements be darker than others. But yeah, it's just refinement at this point. It looks like a good sketch, but it needs time. Time to refine more. So paint cleaner. Hi Eric, some general feedback on my recent project would be highly appreciated. What works? What could be improved? Thanks for your work. Dante looks sharp. Okay. What works is the idea. And the painting on Dante is quite nice. What doesn't work is that it's boring. Like Dante is legit nice. Like is well painted. It's just boring, dude. There's nothing going on. It's three blood letters, maybe four. Is there a fourth one back there? Yeah. There's 4 blood letters standing on a gray field. Or 4 or 5, whatever. Against Dante. Like, it just needs more. Yeah, it should be like a battlefield, something hazy in the background, some atmospheric depth. Like, paint the, like, maybe there's more blood. Like, is he by himself? Like, is there more blood angels in the background? Is there thunderhawks flying around? Is there other things? Like, look at Roman's pieces and see how he composes his pieces. Like, add stuff. Like, it just needs more. Even if he's leading the charge, like, it just needs more. Also, God rays don't really quite look like this. I would also make them brighter and go all the way across the scene. Like, they should really, like, silhouette him. Probably, like, right across his face. Not saying on top of his face, but something like this. Like, whoa. Like, what's making the God rays? Where's the clouds that it's shining through? You know? Look at codex covers, look at book covers, look at like you know. Add just more. Right? That's the biggest lesson. Like, this guy should be like scared. Right? He is kind of scared. Like, shine the light. Why there should be light shining on them. Yeah. But it just needs a hell of a lot more stuff. It's just too plain. Yeah, use like flat pieces of terrain. You could add terrain into it, like a wall or something. I don't know. But anyways. The figure itself painted nice. Obviously he's still not attached. Because it looks like, well, maybe he is. I don't know if he's attached or not. If you can remove him, go back in, paint the backdrop, do more. I can't say really anything other than that. Just do more. Because, yeah, that's good. Looks nice. And then Brandon. I will resubmit this. Just add like a thing, like, hey. Just add like a, hey, I submitted last week. Please don't forget me. I'll take a look at that. Here's updated images of this guy. Yeah, looks pretty good. What's that? What's our time at? 3 hours. All right, I think we're actually going to stop here. Then we will start with Brandon again next week. And we will do. I'll be like, this looks good, dude. This is really nice. I just want to kind of look through stuff like that. That's this view's good though, and this is really nice. Super good. This thing was awesome. Believe we gave this a gold in standard at MPO. And Murph's been working on this thing. We got a Plu Koon. That's all it's saying. This is good. Oh my God, there's so much. No, we're getting through there. So this is where I would like a little bit of description telling me what the intention is. I'm assuming it's supposed to be light coming in through a doorway, or something, some kind of narrow beam of light, you know? Even if it's just like, hey, I'm trying to do light in a door. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to call it there. So, thanks for all the welcome backs. we'll be back on Wednesday painting something. I don't know what. I got so many models to put together. I want to put together the Red Terror. He's like kind of built. I've got the Screaming God. I've got Armageddon Came. I want to paint the captain from that, but I want to convert him to something. I want to convert him into the Xenophase Blade guy for Deathwatch because I haven't done mine. I want to do a Minotaur. I like the new helmet with like the little very Spartan looking things and the big crest. So he's pretty cool. And yeah, some other stuff. I've got some other stuff. So lots of stuff to work on. I'll try and figure out what I want to actually paint on Wednesday. It's not super interesting to watch conversion. Like, I'm not going to be doing like a lot of sculpting work or anything. It's just going to be like arm swaps. And I'm very slow when it comes to conversion because I just like take out a bunch of arms and I go like, does this one look good? Does this one look good? Does this one look good? And I just sit here and like hold it in position and like just stare at it for a bit and go like, So it's not like super interesting. That is a much better thing for like Pete the Wargamer. Like, go watch that guy. Where he's just like, and I did the thing, and it's all nicely edited. But yeah. Other than that, we'll be back next Friday for Feedback Friday. There's still some tickets available for Las Vegas, for my workshop in Las Vegas in like, I believe it's the first weekend of August, or maybe the last weekend of July. Anyways, they're for sale on Bearco's Vault. And then yeah. That's about it. Let's find someone to raid.